Hey there, horror movie tea sippers.
The following podcast episode will contain spoilers for the movie we are about to review. If you have not seen the movie and do not wish to have anything ruined prematurely, please do not continue to watch or listen until you have seen the movie.
And welcome to the Horror Movie Tea Podcast. Today we are covering Puppet Master, which came out in 1989. But before we go into the review, let's grab our cups and talk about tea. So today I am drinking the Plum Deluxe Garden Grove green tea. It's got green tea, jasmine flowers, rose petals, dried cherries, and vanilla essence.
And I am drinking Bigelow's Vanilla Chai Black Tea. And it's got black tea, spices, natural and artificial flavors. Soy lecithin, I think is what we decided how it was pronounced last time.
I think so, yep.
And I added a little bit of sugar and milk.
Oh.
For flavor.
Yes, but thank you so much to Plum Deluxe for allowing us to continue to do what we love. And for our tea sippers, brew yourself a cup of tea, sit back, relax, and we hope you enjoy the review. So for the summary, essentially these group of psychics are invited to a hotel, and I believe they then find out that Neil Gallagher, their friend, had passed. And so it's then like staying there, using their psychic abilities to like find out like what happened to him. But in the meantime, there are these puppets that have come to life and are killing them off one by one. Then you find out that Neil Gallagher actually did not die, and that he found out...
Technically he did.
Okay, he technically died, but he comes back to life because he figured out the secret on like how the puppets revived. And then he's like, no, I'm immortal. And the puppets kill him shortly after, and then the movie ends very shortly after.
Yes.
But so for entertainment, I would personally give this a 6. And a few of the reasons why is, like, to the movie's credit, the puppets are pretty freaky, but it is kind of weird how they gave them, like, weird cute noises. Like, it kind of sounds like almost like a baby, like making, or a toddler, like making noises.
You know what it reminds me of? No Face.
That's not ringing a bell.
From Spirited Away?
Oh, yes. Yes.
That's what it reminds me of.
Yes, you're totally right. Yeah.
You're never not gonna hear it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyways. So it's like, it's a little strange, because it's like if you're trying to make your creature sound or look scary and be scary, why would you give it cute noises? Yeah. I don't know. It's just kind of a strange choice. But I will give credit that the stop motion is pretty creepy, and the puppet designs.
The best part.
Yeah, and the puppet designs were definitely on the unsettling side. And some of them were legitimately creepy. Others you're just like, what the heck? Like, that was a design choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like the problem with this movie, though, is the characters really aren't that likable. You know what the story is, but it just seems all over the place. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't really seem that focused, and you have some really odd choices, like the guy's dreams, and like seeing them like dancing, and then you see like Gallagher. So it's like he's obviously showing that, oh, he's gonna come back to life, but it's like the way that they show it, you don't really like understand, like, because they could have still shown him as coming back to life, but then kind of done it in a way where it's almost like a grieving friend, you know, trying to process the death of a friend. But it's like, they also didn't seem to be a huge fan of Gallagher, like none of them.
None of them seemed very close.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, we were working with him because we're psychics, and we're trying to find out, I think his name is Toulon, like Toulon's secret.
Yeah.
but it's like they know about the secret, but yet maybe they don't realize that the puppets were brought back. But it's like they just seem so surprised by the puppets being brought back. I don't know. Yeah, it's like it's super unfocused. And then in the parts where it's actually supposed to be scary, it flips back and forth from being really creepy and unsettling to like hilarious. Like whenever they're attacking the psychic, where she's doing like a lot of like protection spells and stuff like that, she throws one of them down the staircase, and it's just we burst out laughing because you just see it ricocheting and just like flying down. And it's like, how is that supposed to be scary? And then it's also just like frustrating, which I'll get into the realism, but it's like the characters just seem like they just stand there and wait for the stuff to happen. It's like, that's not scary when you're too busy yelling at the TV for them being stupid.
Yes.
It's just, So it's like, for me personally, I have watched this movie a few times, and I find puppets, dolls, and dummies like really unsettling, and depending on what they look like, downright scary. And so it's like, this is like the perfect type of movie for me to be scared of. And it's like there are quite a few scenes that I do find unsettling, but to me, it's not the movie actually being scary. It's more like the puppet design and the stop motion kind of creeping me out. So it's like, I feel like this is an okay movie to skip, but it is kind of one of those cult classics where there are like a loyal fan base, where it's like a few group of people are like huge fans. So it's like, I feel like if you want to watch it, it's going to be okay to watch. It's not one of those I'm like, oh, you absolutely have to skip. But I don't feel like you're also gaining a whole lot from it either.
So this was my first watch on it. And I was actually very disappointed and confused by it. The effects were better than Lawnmower Man, which came out a few years after.
Well, they did use practical effects.
Yes. To be fair. But it was just a movie full of missed opportunities, I feel like. So I was very disappointed with it, and I give it a 4.75. It is marginally better than Lawnmower Man. Mostly in that it's shorter. You're not sitting there just waiting for it to be over. But it's not really going to give you much either. Like, I also feel extremely unsettled by dolls and dummies and puppets. So I was expecting this to really freak me out, and I largely just felt bored by it.
I wonder if we had watched it in the pitch dark, if that would have
I don't think it would have.
You don't think so? No.
Because they're so inconsistent with things, and which we'll get to a lot of it in the realism, but they don't have a very solid storyline. They don't have a very solid set of rules for what's going on and how everything works. They don't have really any likable characters, so you don't really give a crap when someone dies. So you don't really have anyone to root for, essentially. And honestly, the title itself doesn't make that much sense. You have puppets, but you don't have the puppet master who blew his brains out in the very beginning, and they barely make any mention of him since.
Yeah, like whenever I very first watched this movie, I thought that the original puppet master was going to be like an integral like part of the story. Like, maybe it seemed like he had died, but then he came back to, like, seek revenge or something like that.
Or have someone follow in his footsteps, which I guess Neil Gallagher tried to do, ?
Kind of.
Sort of. Not quite. But someone could have stepped into that role and played an important part from the shadows and revealed himself toward the end.
Yeah.
And it could have been a lot better that way. It also would have been a heck of a lot better if the puppets were the main bad things throughout the movie, with more interesting kills and everything. up the creep factor by us being able to hear like the pitter patter of those tiny little wooden feet on the carpet or in the halls or whatever, or the one with the knife and hook for hands, like tapping it along the wall or scraping the knife along the hallway every now and then. I think that would have been a heck of a lot better and way more terrifying if they only showed glimpses here and there, but people keep dying. And then they realize, oh crap, these puppets were set loose. They got free when Neil found them. They killed him. We don't know how many there are. And also, we don't know how to make them stay dead. Because they said at one point that you have to destroy the body. Mm-hmm. But that then was inconsistent later, which again we'll get to. But... like, do you have to throw it through a wood chipper? Do you have to set it on fire? Or can you just, like, tear it to pieces?
Yeah, it's like, what are the rules?
Yeah, so they were very, very unclear about that. They were very vague. The story just wasn't quite there. And...
it's like they had a general concept, but then, like, the actual execution...
they just sucked.
Shaky, yeah.
With the execution, I just wish the story itself was stronger. Like, the people went to the hotel from a psychic signal. They didn't have an actual invitation or anything. They just showed up. They knew he had been at this location, and they received a psychic signal from him, so they all went there. And that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it just... they also didn't explain the puppet master's motive behind making those puppets, why he was doing anything, what he was aiming for, why the puppets were killing. Was it something in him? Like, was he secretly wanting to kill and he was living through the puppets that way? Or what? And then the people that were after him, we don't know who they were or why they were after him.
Yeah.
They didn't look like police. And they spoke German. So it was very, very confusing. They didn't explain anything, really. And it was just a movie full of missed opportunity, I feel like. So that's my take on the entertainment. Now for realism with Alyssa.
I didn't realize we turned into news broadcasters.
I realized halfway through that that's what I sounded like, so I went with it.
Today on Realism, we are going with a 1. First of all, like, you see Gallagher's body move around, which I don't understand if that was actually Gallagher or the puppets moving him around. Like, if it was him slowly, like...
I think it was supposed to be Gallagher.
Okay, it's just so...
but the purpose behind it was... not there. There was no purpose behind it.
But anyways, it's like whenever he was sitting, his eyes were open, and it showed his eyes like the same like color. And it's like, I understand that he comes back to life, so maybe explains why his eyes didn't become like this. But typically, when a person is dead, and what should have been a red flag to them is, no matter what color your eyes are, when you die, your eyes become like milky, like a milky bluish color.
Yeah, there's a kind of a film type thing over it that makes it look like a milky gray.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, they were so convinced that he was dead, but it's like, I feel like I don't know, maybe it's not common knowledge that, like, the eyes change.
Maybe, I don't know.
I feel like it might be, though. But anyways, but then, there's just some really stupid things. Like, first, the puppets, or not the puppets, the people not noticing the puppets scurrying around, like, it looks like they're roughly the height of their knees. But it's like, I can understand the puppets sneaking up behind them, but there's times where the puppets, like, blatantly run in front of them. It's like, how do you not notice? It's like, even if you look ahead, which there's a lot of people that look at the ground whenever they walk. Me, I switch back and forth. But it's like, even if you looked forward, we have a sense when there's something in front of us. Yeah, it just seems crazy that no one noticed.
Especially out on the street.
Yeah. But then, like, I think her name was Carlisa, the psychic that when she touches an object, she, like, knows its history.
I didn't care enough about any of the characters to remember their names.
But whenever she looks under the bed and the drill puppet is just, like, looking at her, it's like he starts up his drill and then starts running towards her. It's like...
She didn't move.
Yeah, it's like, why didn't she move out of the way? She had plenty of time. It just was very weird. But there's so many times where the people could have, like, moved to not get hurt. Like, kick them, punch them, do something.
It's a puppet.
Yeah, it's like, even, like, the big muscly, big hand puppet is like, even if he's, like, super strong, there's no way he can be as strong as a human being.
No.
Like...
I know they're kind of supernatural beings, but it's still a puppet. You can still punt it down the hall.
Yeah. And then it talked about how, like, the puppet master, you know, made them and how they're completely harmless around him, and he kind of, like, thinks of them as his children. But then he's like, oh, I'm concerned what they're going to do to other people. I feel like they might be dangerous. And I'm like, then why did you make them with weapons? Mm-hmm. Like, why are you making these puppets dangerous and then fearing that they might be dangerous? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And then whenever Gallagher comes back to life, he very specifically tells them, oh, you know, there's no use trying to kill me because you're going to have to kill my whole body, and essentially, like, touting that he's, like, immortal and all of that. And then, like, 5 minutes later, the puppets kill him off. But all they did was, like, stab him, stick a leech in his mouth, and then that was it. It just...
And the leech was barely in his mouth.
Yeah, and so it wasn't consistent. It's like, it's like, what I think about, like, destroying a person's body is, like, you know, lighting it on fire, putting it in a incinerator, or, like, something along those lines. So that didn't...
Or at the very least, cutting it into little pieces.
Yeah, so it didn't make a whole lot of sense. And then it was just so confusing how the puppets were killing other people, but then turned out to not really be the villains with Gallagher. Like, they were, like, then became peaceful around him, but then he insults them and then they turn on him. I don't know. It's just a lot of crossover between entertainment and realism. It, like, just some things that didn't make sense. Like, I wish that they had done a lot more explaining from the puppet master. Like, if maybe they had him start off with very nice looking puppets, and then he brought them to life, and then he is like, oh, they're kind of morphing into, like, these dangerous beings.
Kind of like Chucky.
Yeah, it's like kind of make it where it's like you're trying to figure out how to destroy them. It's just...
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, that's what I got.
I also give it a 1. I think that's very accurate. I agree with everything you said. I also wonder where in the hell the leeches were coming from.
Yes. Yeah.
With that one puppet. She just kept vomiting leeches from nowhere. Which is cool. That's nice. But the kills were completely unrealistic. No one was trying to really live. They all just kind of stayed there. The one psychic chick that tried to do protection charms and things did yeet a puppet over the railing for the stairs, but then she chose the worst floor to get off of.
She literally got on the floor that the puppet that she threw was on.
Yep. But also, even if she had chosen that floor, she didn't get up. Like, she was still sitting in the elevator and didn't really defend herself when the door opened and the puppet was there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Did she really want to die? Or, I don't know. It seems so weird, and I really think it would have been, again, better if there was an actual puppet master in the shadows, and I think it also would have been really good, to take it a step further, if the puppets had killed Neil Gallagher, and the puppet master brought him back to life as a puppet.
Oh, I hate it. Like,
Kinda like
Dead Silence. Oh, I
Yes.
hate it.
Exactly.
You know one thing?
That would have been extremely unsettling.
Yeah.
Would have been a hell of a lot better.
One thing that I forgot to mention that you kind of triggered me remembering is the fact that she was such a bitch at the dinner table.
Yes.
And even the guy with the blonde hair, he was like, "What's your problem?" And then all of a sudden he like warms up to her. Like once he sees her trying to do like protection spells, he's just like, "Oh, she's not so bad." It's like, I don't know. He just warmed back up to her real quick, I felt like.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of weird. And again, the characters were just so unlikable.
Yeah, and it's
just
like, why
don't
was she
care.
saying those things? It just... The character development was terrible. It's like they didn't really think about the motivations of the characters, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Or where they wanted them to go. What they did do well on was the stop motion and the design for the puppets and the effects of like the blood.
Yeah?
So
Yeah.
when the corpses are at the table and you see like the leech marks and the slit throat and everything, those look decent.
Yeah. The effects were pretty decent.
Could have been really good if the story were stronger
Yeah.
and made more sense.
Yeah. Like, this movie definitely has a lot of lost potential.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know they didn't have much time to call the police, but I feel like they should have been called once they like discovered a body or something.
Yeah, it took them forever to figure
Yeah.
out that they're dead.
Yeah. They didn't really explain why they brought the housekeeper back to life either.
Yeah, that was weird.
Or what happened to her, really.
Yeah. She didn't seem that different.
No. But she kind of just got pushed to the background.
Yeah.
Anyway. So it's really just a very disappointing movie. It doesn't make that much sense. I wish it did. If it made a bit more sense, it probably would have been a little bit higher in the entertainment as well. But it was just, it fell way short. It really did. So, personally, I would skip this one. There are better ones out there. Dead Silence is better, too.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't covered Dead Silence
Yet.
which we should. Request it below, please. But, you know, Dead Silence, of course, has its flaws.
Oh, yeah.
But the idea that they're going for, I feel like, was at least a lot stronger than this one, for sure.
Yeah, they laid the groundwork for it a lot better.
Yep.
So, that's what I got for this movie. I'm done with this movie.
Yeah, I feel like this one is it's an okay one to skip for sure. But anyways, thank you everyone for joining us today, and please comment on what you thought of the movie. If you'd like to recommend a movie, game, or tea and keep up to date with our content, you can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and most places you listen to podcasts.
And if you'd like to support our podcast, please subscribe, like, and share our content. And if you'd like to support us monetarily, we have a Teespring and PayPal, or we have our affiliate link with Plum Deluxe. It does not affect the price of the tea at all. It just allows us to continue to do what we love. And you can find all of the sites mentioned linked below. And until the next time, guys, stay safe and stay spoopy. Bye!